Hello, I'm Sally Gibney. Welcome to Caring Connections. You know, every child deserves to be in a loving and caring home, but unfortunately, that's not always the case. Sometimes a child needs to be removed from their home and placed in temporary or foster care. What is foster care, and how can we as individuals make a difference in a child's life? Take a look at this, and then we're going to talk a little more about that.
When the family is committed to working together to establish and maintain safety in the home, then everything else can fall into place.
We've got some great kids that need homes. We've had a lot of issues with like truancy in school and just kids not following through, and they need the support of the adults around them to make that happen for them.
Part of my job is recruiting, training, and supporting foster parents, but a critical part of my job is finding the best match when a child or a teen is in need of coming into foster care.
I went into foster care when I was 3. I moved around and had 3 failed adoptions when I was 10. I was adopted and that didn't work out. I went back into foster care. I moved around a few more times. Some of those times were back and forth to the adopted parents until I was put fully back into state's custody, and then I stayed at a couple more homes and ended up aging out of foster care. At that point, I'd moved over 70 times.
I was 10 when my mom started doing foster care, and I don't know, it's easy to let people in to your house and like start to get to know them, and a lot of them, I called them my family straight off.
This was a really great choice, I think, for Chris and for us as well, because he's become such a part of our lives, and he adds a lot of joy and he adds a lot of fun to our life. He's well liked by everybody around here. Everybody that knows this kid loves him. In this community, he's much more respected than he was when he was with his biological family. And he's funny, he's pleasant, he's fun to be around. Great kid, and we realize that he fills a void probably that was, I know, in my life, and probably Eric's too. And also, we've been told that, people just are so happy that it's worked out, him being here, because he had a rough go.
We've been doing foster parenting for 17 years now, and we've had any number of kids. I mean, some people come here for an overnight. Some people come here and stay here for a couple of years. So it's really it's really kind of hard to tell what's going to happen. We started out doing teenagers, and teenagers started to become too much for us as we aged gracefully. And we are now we're working with infants and toddlers, and we have a group with us now who are 2, 4, and 5 years old. Plus we have a 9-year-old son that we adopted out of foster care that was with us.
By having children placed in community-based foster homes, we can maintain some semblance of stability in their lives when the rest of it has been disrupted. Even in the most horrible home cases, a removal from the home is still traumatic for a child. And if we can minimize that change, that impact on the child, the better off he or she will be. Placement in a community foster home means remaining in familiar surroundings. Placement in the community means a child can maintain relationships with teachers and doctors, churches and coaches. Placement in the community means that families can focus on improving and healing. Now, we can't do that without loving foster homes. Loving foster homes enables me to do my job better. Loving foster homes mean that communities are supporting our neighbors. Loving foster homes mean that parents can focus on what's important as opposed to worrying about the safety of their kids outside of their home. And loving foster homes mean that all children, from their most adorable to their most challenging, can be supported and nurtured in their time of need.
Some of the things that helped me to feel a part of that family was being able to share in functions and activities that the biological family does. As far as going, there were some foster homes I went camping and the whole family went and the foster kids got to go, and when they went school shopping we all went together in those homes, and we had dinner at a table. That's very important. That definitely brought a lot of unity as far as family, just sitting at the dinner and sharing that time with the whole family instead of just being a part of was a big help. Being able to have a room with some of the biological family instead of having the foster kids in one room and the biological kids in the other family. And when we go to functions, some of the families that stood out were the ones that didn't introduce me as their foster child, but introduced me as either their friend or their child. And going to school functions with me helped me feel a part of, and just being really involved in my life as if they would be with their biological children.
I've been doing foster parenting for about 4 years. I started because I moved and I had lots of room, and I thought, well, I can help some kids. I have some extra bedrooms. Thought that I had a lot to offer. I had 2 children here with me, my own children, and so I took the training and signed up to be a foster parent, and actually got my first child before I completed the training, I think. I've had over 20 foster kids, some longer term, some very short. I've had all ages, from newborn, right from the hospital, to teenagers. I've adopted 2 children who were foster children. One was that infant that came home to me from the hospital, who's now 3, and Courtney, who came to me when she was 13, and she's now 16. That her adoption just went through this year. This is my daughter, Gretchen, and I have a total of 8 children. Some of them are grown now and having babies of their own, but we have right now 6 kids in the house. 2 are foster children, and the others are my own and ones that have been adopted.
Ideally, we look for extended family if the child or teen needs to be removed from their home. This is what we refer to as kinship care. If that's not an option, we search for the ideal foster family to provide care for them when reunification efforts are being put into place. So who are these kids? They're kids in our own community. They're kids that are victims of neglect, physical abuse, sexual abuse, abandonment. They're medically fragile babies. Bottom line is they're just kids. They're kids that need somebody who will understand their uniqueness, somebody to help them belong. They need a foster family when their times are tough, somebody that they can trust during difficult times, someone who will laugh with them and care for them. And the bottom line is somebody to help them become kids again.
Well, the important thing is, you know, to know that you're doing an invaluable service. You're giving the kids even though they may not seem to appreciate it, they may be, you know, especially if you're working with the older crowd, they may not seem to appreciate it, but believe it or not, they do. And they do need that control, and they love the control, even though they seem to rebel on it. So it's a challenging job, but it's very rewarding. And we have, like I said, we've been in 17 years, and we got into it because we lost our daughter, who was 17 years old, to cancer, and the house was just too quiet. And we just decided that we should open our hearts and our house to other kids that needed it. And it started off very easily. And then at one time we had 5 or was it 6 teenagers? Mm-hmm. Yeah, 5 or 6 teenagers at one time, boys and girls, which ended that wasn't a very long haul, but we had boys here most of the time, and they were not the easiest. They were not the easiest type of boys to try and reach. Some of them had been on their own for years, and they didn't seem too appreciative of the controls that you put on them at the time. But they come back now, or we meet them at Mayfest or some fair in town, and they tell us how much it meant to them to be in such a stable home. So it has its rewards.
We need homes. We need families. We've got lots of kids, unfortunately, that sometimes need some other place to live. And I think it's a traumatic experience for them to come in as it is. And it's so important for us to have people and families to make a good match so that we don't have to move kids frequently. We really want to try to keep them in one place and stable. They need routines and consistency, somebody that will care for them. We've run into some difficulties with sibling groups. It's so important to try to keep these kids together. It's just really kind of, I guess, at that point, if they're being removed from their home, that's all that they have left is their brothers and sisters. And it's really important for us to be able to try to keep them together. So opening your home up to maybe more than one would be really helpful for us.
Courtney and I have known each other for a long time, actually. We went to the same campground when we were younger, and she went to my school for a little while, and that was 5 years ago. And I just didn't expect her to be my sister.
But she is, so
Yeah.
how's that?
She's my best friend.
Go ahead, Courtney.
It definitely was a challenge going from everything I had before, like being moved around a few times in the beginning it was hard because I didn't actually feel like I fit in or had someone there to like connect with. And then when I moved here, I noticed things got easier and I felt like I had more of a place, and I started building relationships even though I didn't want to admit it at first, but I liked it here, and when I started looking at like maybe leaving and looking into other things like elsewhere, I realized I couldn't leave, that I needed this and that this was right for me.
Who can be a foster parent? You need to be at least 21 years or older. You can be single, married, living with a partner, civil union, or widowed. Enjoy kids. Be up for a challenge. Working with the kids' team through DCF and working closely with their family. Be willing to make a difference. Someone who can help a child or a teen from a day to a lifetime.
But I think it's really rewarding when the teenagers that we used to work with come back and tell us that we really helped them when they really needed help. We have a boy that lives down the street from us, well, young man at this point, and
Married man.
yes, and we had a conversation with him one day, and he told us that if it wasn't for him, he would not have had a life at all.
He was
So
with us for 4 years.
that to me is very rewarding.
Adopted. I find it a very rewarding experience. I feel like I've helped a lot of kids. I've provided a safety net for a lot of kids. I never would have thought that I would have had teenagers in my house. When I started out, I wanted little kids. The need was for teenagers, and I said, okay, I'll try it, and have found that those are the ones that I do the best with. They're self-sufficient, and folks think, oh, teenagers, no, they're a lot of trouble, and we don't want to foster teenagers, and it's a huge need. We do need foster parents for teenagers, and they're not a lot of trouble. Some of them come with issues. They're not all in foster care because of their own stuff. It's because, their parents made mistakes. I can only think of a couple of teenagers that were real challenging to me, but still I have relationships with them even though they're not here anymore. They've either gone home or aged out, or they might be in a different foster home now for one reason or another. I still have relationships with them, so even when I am not sure if I've done any good for the kids, I find out later on that they did form attachments to me, and this was a good experience for them here. When I get a message on Facebook or an email or a text that says, I miss you and I love you, that makes it all worth it.
But I think once you meet the kids in the DCF system and hear their stories and understand their situation better, it's hard to not love them. So I think that at this point it's something I would regret not doing if we hadn't done it.
I graduated high school. I am working full-time in a factory, and I'm looking forward to hopefully doing some further education. And I still have a support network. I have foster families and my family, families that I still talk to and wonder how I'm doing, and we keep in touch, and that are proud of me because I've graduated high school and because I am where I am today. I actually looked into, in a couple of years, I was looking into doing foster care. So
The rewarding part of the foster parenting, is to be able to see the kids excel.
One of my favorite poems is this: 100 years from now, it will not matter what your bank account was, the sort of house you lived in, or the kind of car you drove, but the world may be different because you are important in the life of a child.
In the last few years, Vermont has had anywhere from 900 to 1,100 children and youth in the custody of the state. Over that same period of time, 40 to 50% of those in custody were placed in a foster home setting. Although DCF is committed to its efforts to seek kinship placement for any child or youth placed in state's custody, There are times when kin are not available or appropriate. When DCF looks to place a child or youth in a foster home setting, it's ideal if we can match that child or youth with the best home possible for them. There has been a shortage of foster homes in the state of Vermont, which impacts the ability to make that ideal match happen. For every child in custody, the goal is to reunify them with their parents or other appropriate family. For some, that is not possible. Additionally, oftentimes multiple children in a family are ordered into custody. DCF is committed to keeping siblings together whenever possible. We know that this reduces the overall stress that's created when a child has to be removed from their home. So, if you're willing to help for a day, a week, or forever, for a young child or an adolescent, for one child or a sibling group, we need you.
Wow, that was a lot of information, wasn't it? I'm so happy to have with me Valerie Miner and Kendi Skidmore. Thank you for being here. Now, for those of us who are not able to perhaps be a foster parent, what can we do to make a difference in a child's life?
Sally, one thing I can suggest is similar to what you're doing. You're helping spread the word. And there'll be people watching this great show right now that may say, I'm part of this organization. Let's invite Valerie and Kendi to come and do a presentation and help spread the word that there's a need for foster families in Bennington County. We also have our PINS group, which
it's a very special group.
Oh, and you've been very active in that. It means partners in service, and we have a lot of local churches that are involved with our agency, and they help set up donations for Santa's workshop to help fund kids to go to summer camps. There's just a big variety there that
Now,
helps.
also when a need comes up, you have a special need for a child, you contact these people, don't you, to see if they're able to provide it?
I do. I have an email there. I send out a request, and what's fabulous is those who are on the email, they'll then forward it to somebody else that they know that may say, hey, I can help with this
I have a crib,
request.
I have a this, I have a that.
Right.
Now, you don't have to be a church, do you? It could be an organization, or it could be anyone who wants to be part of PINS.
Absolutely. It started as adopt a social worker through a local church, and then it's just expanded where individuals are helping too.
Oh, that's great.
It is fabulous.
That's great. And now, Kendi, tell us.
I think if, you're always cleaning out closets at the end of every season. We have a foster care closet that's a support for foster families and children, and we try to keep it stocked with various sizes of children's clothes. So new or gently used clothing, shoes, coats, snow pants, we can take, books, and so then we have them available for foster kids who might come into custody with nothing, without bringing anything.
So many of our children have so much. So you mean that a family, if they have extra toys or extra things, they are able to share them with you as well?
Right. Toys are harder to store, but certainly clothes. We have kids of all sizes and ages, from infant to 18 years old. So any size clothing, as long as it's gently used.
Yeah, that's great. Now, is there anything else that how else can people help us?
We often come across when kids come into custody, as Kendi said, they hardly have anything. And what we do every now and then is a drive for personal hygiene projects. Or products, sorry. And some people have put them in little bags with a stuffed animal so we can give them to the kids when they come into care. Or we have duffel bags and where we can do that. Babies that come into care, we don't have the diaper bag ready. I was just with a family and they're like, we don't have anything. And usually there's preparation when a baby comes into the home. So having a little diaper bag. And so people could start doing a drive like that or collect donations.
So there are many things that we can do to make a difference in these children's lives, and because they deserve to know that they're special and they matter and people care about them.
Absolutely.
Diapers too, right? People can just donate diapers.
Absolutely, that would
Anything
be
like
great.
that.
And
Yeah.
it's amazing when our kids receive donations. I think of Santa shopping over the holidays, and they'll look around and they'll be like, who did this for us?
Yeah.
Because they're getting gifts for their families, and they're not feeling alone.
Yeah.
And that people are helping and support them, coming up with something that makes them feel good during a very hard part of the year for them.
And the important thing is for them to know they matter, because they do matter. Each one of us does matter. And you gals are absolutely wonderful. The job you're doing is absolutely fantastic, and we thank you so much for all you are doing. And for those of you out there, there is a lot that we can do. So go to, at the end of the show, you're going to see the Facebook page and also a website page where you can go and get more information and reach out. You can make a difference. Until the next time, keep on making those caring connections. Bye-bye.